I've been having a very wild week so far, and today I woke up with this notion that I was going to get my life together. And as soon as I decided to do some schoolwork, my internet dropped. We love that for me. So I recently received my last 2 pieces of book mail for my book haul, and that's going to be the illustrated version of Assassin's Apprentice and the Starless Sea, which I'm actually dumb excited to get into. I know you can't see it on my face, but in my heart of hearts, in my body, my brain cells, my skin cells, my whole anatomy, it's just really excited for this book. And so I decided to go ahead and do a vlog for you guys of me reading possibly both of them. Hopefully both of them, we don't know. And yeah, we'll see. So as soon as I decided to start reading, my internet came back up. So maybe I should do some schoolwork, right? And also because it's Wednesday and I haven't done anything all week. So yeah, we're gonna do some schoolwork first. Then we're gonna grab some lunch. And then we're gonna start our books. Okay, I am back, and it has been a super productive reading day because I got through more than halfway of Assassin's Apprentice. I have 200 pages left that I feel like I'm gonna finish tomorrow. Now, let's chat. Fitz is an interesting character, to say the least. I knew that the book was going to touch on depression and mental and emotional abuse, but it is heavy, and I do mean heavy. Like, I believe that almost most of the characters that I've seen so far in this book has experienced some type of depression in one way or another. The person that's raising Fitz, Burek, we don't know how we feel about him yet. Stay tuned for that. The character development is there. I'm learning a lot about all the characters, but I'm just not in love with any of them yet. I also feel like at one point Burek goes through his own depressive spell because he used to be this right-hand noble, and now he's pretty much just in charge of this bastard child, which technically shouldn't be his responsibility, but it is, and he's lost someone that he really, really respected. And then it's obvious that Fitz goes through his own depressive spells as well, which would make sense because his life is extremely depressing, like just sad from the beginning. Like from the time he drew breath into this world, it's just been one sad thing after another. When I was reading that, I knew that that was going to shape his character. I was hoping that she used that to shape his character, but okay, she knew what she was doing on that aspect. I will give her that much. I can't say that it's heavy on the plot right now, but it is establishing their world. It was hard to get into at first because I felt like her world building was kind of foggy. Some aspects is still kind of foggy because this is a fantasy novel and there is a fantasy aspect in here, but she doesn't touch on it nearly as much as I would expect her to. Like, you know that there's this ability that Fitz can do, and she talks about it a little bit, but a lot of the information that she gives us is to be implied. She doesn't describe things in great detail. She more so just gives bits and pieces so that you can understand what's going on. She's really not diving into the fantasy aspect as much as you would expect for a fantasy book, but I'm not holding that against her because this was written in 1995, so I don't know how they was doing fantasy back then. I do want to mention that I feel like because Fitz is someone who is not of importance, you read it from the perspective of someone who is kind of tossed aside and not really noticed in society. I did not expect him to become an assassin's apprentice at like 7 years old, so that's not okay. I'm not okay with that. His first depressive spell comes in when he's about 11 years old, and yeah, I feel like even though he's forced to grow up a lot more because he is a bastard child and there's no one concerned with protecting his innocence or making his outlook on the world seem like this bright, beautiful, bold thing full of possibilities. No one's trying to even put that into his head because it's not true, and it's not ever going to be true for him. But at the same time, it's like this kid is really jumping off the porch kind of fast, guys. Like, kind of quick. So I'm guessing that this depressive episode that we witnessed in the first half of the book is going to be consistent throughout the series, because yeah, his life is really sad. It's really, really sad. Okay guys, it's the next morning and we have some stuff to discuss about this book, okay? Because I feel like in the beginning, so like the book overall is really slow paced. I would not describe it as action packed. Even the things that do occur in the book are really minor, but I wouldn't say that I dislike that, because as we all know, I'm big on character development and character growth, and I feel like the details that she does give us, or the events that she does give us, are vital to who Fitz will become and who he is becoming. So I appreciate that aspect of it, but it's not book gripping, action packed. Like, it's just not heavy on the action, okay? But what it is heavy on, heavy on, is the trauma, okay? There's so much like mental, emotional, physical abuse and traumatic experiences, and like how much trauma can one man take? Because I'm fed up. I'm up to here with it. Fitz has the patience and the understanding of a celestial being, because I don't get it. I don't understand. His life has been one dark tale after another, and it just keeps happening, and it's like, can he get a break, Miss Hobb? Can you write a break? Just one. I'm the people. The people want one good thing to happen to Fitz, please, just once. But no, we don't get that. So this is Aaron's favorite book, and I may not have listened deeply enough when she said that his story was sad. Maybe I didn't take heed to it, because it's a lot more depressing than I expected it to be. I'm depressed reading it. Okay? You know how you read a sad story and then you just feel so bad for that person, and you have like a level of empathy, which is like you can understand what they're going through and you can understand what they're feeling and you feel bad for them. This is different, because I feel it, not in an empathy level, but a sympathy level. Like, I've been there and I haven't, okay? My life is not this sad, but I feel like I'm Fitz. And I have to say that I think that that's a beautiful part of the writing, because it's not like watching or just reading about a sad person's story. It's like literally being that sad person and reading from his perspective. And he's like this, I wouldn't call him an outsider. Fitz is not an outsider, but he's just like the lampshade in the room. People walk by and they're like, that's a nice lamp, and then they just keep going, but the lamp witnesses everything. Fitz is the lamp, okay? And so I feel like we're reading this and we're the lamp, and it's just, I can't. I will say that her writing is very elusive. So I know that I said last night that I wanted her to get more in depth on the fantasy aspect, and the fantasy aspect is not really fantasy, I guess. I don't know if you would call telepathy fantasy, but it was written in the 90s, and I don't know how they were doing it back then, but clearly the 90s ate up some trauma, because this is heavy on the trauma. Hold the romance. There is no romance in this book. Fitz doesn't even have a crush, okay? Everything that's bad is just happening to him, and it's just one depressing thing after another, and Fitz doesn't even have a female or male. I mean, it doesn't have to be a female, but Fitz doesn't even have a friend that he can kind of confide in, that he can unleash all this emotional trauma onto. He doesn't have a bestie that he like talks to. There's no one giving him motivational speeches. And I don't know how much trauma one person can take by constantly being kicked down, literally and figuratively and mentally and emotionally. And there's nobody like, hey, you're doing a good job. I'm amazed that he's not suicidal. Of course, I'm not looking for that in a story, but if he had exhibited some suicidal thoughts, they would fit the book. And so I don't know what to, like, I didn't read the synopsis, of course, and clearly I didn't listen to Erin because she gave a PG-13 warning, but I feel like the warning should have been more solid because I don't know, I just feel like Erin didn't really say that it was gonna happen like this. So I'm slightly blaming her. I'm putting the blame on Erin. She's starting to talk more about the fantasy aspect or the telepathy aspect, but it's very elusive. I guess that's to be expected when you're reading older literature, and that's more like Shakespearean style where the writing is not necessarily clear and you just kind of piece stuff together. A lot of the terms in the books is everywhere. Nobody really has a name in this book. Like, there's literally a character called the Fool, and I was wondering why everybody keeps calling him the Fool, but that's because my mind was in 2020, and so I'm like, it's just rude to call this person a fool. But then I had to date my historic mind back. I had to roll it back and realize that fools were comedians, like jesters, court jesters. So I'm like, oh, so he makes the king laugh. She just throws around trauma with her chest. Think trauma and then put it in a book. Okay, I just started reading again from my last check-in point, and I just want to say that, like, Miss Hobb wrote this book with her whole ass chest, because literally when I was talking to you guys about how I was shocked that Fitz is not suicidal, the next paragraph on that page was him being suicidal. You know what? Consistency. She gives us that. I will say that she is consistent through her trauma all the way through to she sees that shit to the end, okay? She said, I'm gonna give y'all trauma and I'm gonna stand by it. Okay guys, so I am officially back and we are in the home stretch because I have less than 100 pages. I'm hoping to knock this out in the next hour to maybe an hour and a half because I'm reading kind of slow, but I'm gonna sit down and finish this book. So where we are right now, I have a character that I slightly like and I'm nervous because her level of like ability to not care about how you feel is unmatched. Okay, she wrote this shit with her chest and she wholeheartedly said happiness is not my ministry, and I'm afraid to like him because I feel like he's about to die. I actually finished reading the entire book, and first of all, let's just go back to my last check-in. I was so convinced that she was gonna kill my dog, and she took him to the brink of death, and he ended up making it through, which is no small feat considering all the other fates that everybody has come to in this book. I'm actually kind of shocked that she didn't kill him, so I have that going for me. I appreciate that. So I did go back and reread the first chapter because I wasn't sure what I wanted to rate it, and the version of Fitz that we meet in the first chapter versus the version of him that we're left with when the book ends, the character development and the character growth is just phenomenal, I have to say, because it's so realistic and it's little events that happens over time. You really get to see it in him. I feel like this is one of the slower coming to age stories, but I don't necessarily dislike that because one of my all-time favorite romance stories is Jane Eyre, which is very slow moving and not action-packed at all. And one of the reasons that I love Jane Eyre is because it elegantly follows her from literally her childhood up until several relationships and her ending up in a marriage as a grown woman. And I just really admired the growth that I've seen in her, and I'm feeling the same way about Fitz in this book. So after rereading the first chapter, I did decide that I was going to give the book a 4 out of 5. Even though I give the book a 4 out of 5, Miss Robin Hobb's audacity is a 5 out of 5. Okay, her kahunas are probably the biggest I've ever seen. Like, I've just never read a book by an author that just had such large kahunas. This is probably the darkest, most traumatic book that I've read, and it happens to be Erin's favorite. And then my favorite book is probably the most happiest, sappy, emotionally fulfilling book ever. And I'm wondering how Erin's gonna feel reading Strange the Dreamer, because it is literally the polar opposite of this dark and gory mess that she told me to read. So I'm gonna try to convince her to vlog it so that you guys can see her reactions, because it is going to be polar opposite. Because if she loves something as dark as this, I can only imagine what her reactions is gonna be to Strange the Dreamer. And on that note, in the morning after doing some homework, I am going to be starting The Starless Sea, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to go ahead and go to bed now so that I can wake up and start my day so that I can pick up the book, because that's how excited we are. Good night. Guys, so I'm checking in. It's beautiful, magnificent, kiss wonderful. I am so in love with this book. This book is so wonderful that, like, when I woke up this morning, I did all of my schoolwork in one sitting today so that I can just read this book throughout the entire weekend. And we're 150 pages into the book. We stand Dorian, okay? I like him. Zachary, I actually like as a character. This is gonna sound weird to anyone who hasn't watched it, but I really love fairy tales and like fantastical writing and just going into the story beyond like what you see on the surface. And so I really admire that about these books, and it's probably one of the reasons that I love them the very most. As a child, I used to have this fairy tale book that told like different type of original stories involving some of the characters that I love, like Snow White and Cinderella, and I really loved owning that book. And then when Once Upon a Time came out, if you've watched Once Upon a Time, then you know they take regular fairy tales and they put their own spin on them, and they make the story a lot more involving and a lot more in depth and just a lot more whimsical. And I loved Once Upon a Time to the point where I've watched the entire show 2 times because I just loved it that much. So just to be able to relive this in The Starless Sea is just giving my heart and my soul everything that it needs right now, especially after reading Assassin's Apprentice. Like, there's just something about this story that feels whole and wholesome and complete. Just love it. So we're 150 pages into the book. I plan to spend all day tomorrow reading. I have cleaned my house. I have done my homework. I have cooked food. I don't plan to move off my couch or my bed until I'm done with The Starless Sea. So right now, where we are in the book, the main character, Zachary, who I believe is Haitian, and I didn't know that there was going to be I'm not sure, but I think this book may have a male-male romance. Stay tuned on that. I am not sure, but that was a shocker. I didn't expect him to basically not just be a white character. I assumed that that's what he was, but there's some ethnicity, there's some melanin in here, and again, there might be a male-male romance, so I will touch back in with you guys on that. But the main character, Zachary, is kind of having like this Alice in Wonderland thing where he's wandering in this world that he just kind of fell through from a door, and the door no longer exists, and now he's just roaming and trying to figure out what it is he's supposed to be doing there. I'm just really enjoying the story right now. I am going to go to bed so that I can wake up and do nothing but read this all day. Okay, I'm back, guys. It is the next day at night. It is time for me to move. I am relocating states, and so I have been getting ready to pack, getting boxes and tape, and just taking down my apartment. But I've been trying to read this book so slowly because I just love it so much. Like, honestly, I would have been done with the book already, but I keep going back to reread like my favorite fables, my favorite passages, paragraphs, and just pages that I absolutely loved. Even though I just lived it 5 minutes ago, I want those 5 minutes to come back right now. So I am down to my last like 64 pages. I don't want it to be over. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I can get this tattooed on my body. But I can't right now because, you know, Corona. I'll have to settle for like a necklace with some charms on it, or like a bracelet, maybe like a Pandora bracelet with these charms on it, until, you know, we can get it permanently on our bodies. I've also never like tabbed this much. There's so many tabs in this book, and I'm still not done because I still have to read the remaining part of the book. But also, like, I love this book so much, and like there were so many moments that like I wanted to keep track of that I went and tabbed the top of the book too. So yeah, I went kind of crazy with the tabs on this book, but that's only because I've been loving everything so far. Like, I don't even know how to describe this book, and I guess that's really why I haven't checked in as I kept reading, because I can't describe it without giving away too much of the story. Everything's so delicate and like intricately woven together. The fables tie in with real life, and Zachary, okay, first of all, Zachary and Dorian, I knew it. I knew it from the first time they met. I felt the sparks off the page, and I just really want them to be together. And they're fighting against time, and they're fighting against fate and different timelines and different universes and different destinies, and I just need them to win. I really, really do. And there's so many beautiful couples in this book, and like relationships that stand the test of time, literally. Okay, but this book is just so whimsical and like so magical. I could see how people say that The Starless Sea is similar to Strange the Dreamer, but at the same time, I feel like The Starless Sea is a lot more intricate and you have to pay more attention. I feel like Strange the Dreamer is just one fantasy, including gods and like dream come true. It's just one Disney World story. And then we have The Starless Sea, which is, think all the Disney movies that you love and like all the Disney fantasies that you love, movies and books and TV shows and just stories morphed into one universe. And it's just absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. I guess if you're someone who's not super into fairy tales and you're in the story for the plot, it can seem kind of slow pacing because the plot is there and the plot is beautiful, but it's not about the plot. It's about all these different stories and how they overlap with each other and how they intertwine with each other. It is officially the next morning. I did finish reading The Starless Sea last night, and if I could give that book 6 stars, you know what, I am gonna give that book 6 stars. It was a 6 out of 5. We love it. We love to see it. I am in the middle of packing because it's time for me to go, and I've pre-recorded a bunch of videos, so things will still look very normal on my channel, and then when I start recording again, I will have a whole new background. So, you know, I've noticed that like I need a balance in my life. I have officially read probably the darkest book I've ever read and the most whimsical book I've ever read, and I feel like I had a very like emotionally unbalanced week because I had my heart wrenched and torn into pieces and just squeezed, and then I read something that really put me back together and made me whole again. I read something very salty and also something very sweet, and I enjoyed both books. Thanks for watching this vlog. Send me good vibes, good energy, because I don't know how I'm gonna pack up my whole house in 1 week and do a 27-hour drive and then unpack my house again. And I'm also still a student, and school doesn't stop when you're online. Your assignments are still due regardless, so it's gonna be a very chaotic week. When you guys see this vlog, I will be getting ready to get on the road, so drop any really good audiobooks in my comments that you think I might want to listen to, because yeah, I got a long way to go. Bye.